Hi, this is Pat Moorhead from More Insights and Strategy, and we're here for another data center podcast. I am joined by my co-host, Matt, Will, Paul, MIA, but that's okay. The show must go on, and in 2 weeks, those two cats will be on here, so we'll be four again. If you're new to the More Insights and Strategy Data Center podcast, first of all, I have to ask, where have you been? Are you living under a rock? But if you are new, that's okay too. We cover the top conversations about data center and the data center edge. We talk compute, cloud, security, storage, networking, ops, data management, AI, and more. And quite frankly, whatever we want to talk about or whatever you want us to talk about, because it's our show. So let's dive in here. But before I get too far into the details, I want a reminder, we do cover publicly traded companies. Don't take anything we say as investment advice. In fact, if you could see my portfolio results over the last 2 years, you definitely would not listen to a thing that I say. Get a professional. So let's dive in. Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, Pat?
Doing well. Love to pod on Friday. I mean, work's not over. Unlike other analysts, we actually do work past 5 p.m. on a Friday. Most weeks, but then again, probably put 40 hours up to this point. But no, I love potting. I love getting out there, freewheeling, right? Yep. Live, no nets. We are live, folks. Like no fake live, no recorded live. We are live. So if you want to hang out and find something you might want to cancel us for, this is the place to be. Yep. So anyways,
fun. You never know what's coming.
Yeah, so we have a lot of topics here. We're talking HPE cybersecurity report, Infoblox announcements, Intel selling its server business, not getting out of server processors, but selling the platform business. Yep. We're going to talk volumes, getting $20 million round A funding, and we're going to talk about an HPE rebranding, baby. So let's dive. I'm going to call Matt your number on the HPE annual cybersecurity report.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one to me, and I think it was interesting because, I mean, as you know, I've been following HPE on the security side for quite some time, right? It started back in 2017 with Silicon Rooted Trust, and through all their permutations of or the expansion of their security portfolio, and I mean, to this day, they really have done an amazing job in kind of driving platform level security. When you think about security, your mind usually goes to the to the Palo Altos of the world, or the the Infoblox, as we're going to talk to. But HPE, like Cisco and Dell and others, build security in, and they do their annual report. They had some interesting stats in there. They go and speak to their customers, and I think they spouted out there was a 1.2 billion events logged per day, security events logged per day on HPE-based systems, and that can be anything from an attempted phishing attack to ransomware to DDoS kind of attacks, right? So, but 1.2 events a day or 1.2 billion events a day they were logging. And just, it's incredible to me. Yeah, here we go. I'm sorry, 2.6, not 1.2. They blocked over 1,000 phishing attempts per day in their average customer. It's amazing to me when you think about the scale of what an enterprise goes through, the scale of attacks that they have to fend against. And when you think about companies like HPE and others that kind of take all this work out of the hands of IT and just automate the response and support, how effective these tools are and how invaluable they are to an IT person like me. It's incredible. So I was staggered by some of the numbers, and I thought it was certainly worth reading for IT folks out there, what they've done.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of a backdrop, right? We have evolved from, let's say, perimeter-based security, which says no bad guys get in, right? This is very much perimeter security in terms of what they offer, but they also offer, hey, the bad guys are in, now what do we do? Mm-hmm. And then the final step of this are things like remediation, like getting your data back, ransomware. So the company really is an end-to-end security company. They do a lot of stuff on the edge as well with Aruba, things
Mhm.
like Passport. But what I like about the cybersecurity reports is it gives to you, listen, products are important, but it gives you a high level view of what they're seeing in the industry, and they lay out their proof point why they think they're going to be good at looking at this in the future. And one of the things,
Yeah.
one of the trends in security is that it's so complex to pull all this stuff together. And what happens, right? You've got two ways you can look at security: best, quote unquote, best of breed. Let's have multiple point solutions that I think are best vertically and horizontally in the stack. And
Mhm.
then I can go with a suite. What people are realizing is that the time and effort it takes to integrate and pull together all those quote unquote best in breed products, you're 2 or 3 revisions behind. And just based on the integration, you potentially have created more security issues. So suites are in security. And by the way, that is just the wheel of innovation where something new comes out, it's best of breed, it's, let's say, order of magnitude better, but then the rest of the industry catches up.
Mhm.
Um, some, I would say, might be over serving that market, adding too many features,
Yeah.
right? That are only used by maybe 5% of the end user base. But anyways, nice to see HP leaning in there. And by the way, from a server point of view, I mean, root of trust and all they're doing with ILO is impressive as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I read a report once that HPE sponsored that showed that I think the average enterprise has 41 point security solutions. And I actually was talking to a CISO a few weeks back who said they had 190 solutions in-house, and trying to integrate them is impossible. Trying to find the staff to manage that is impossible from a cost perspective, and just from the resources aren't there, right? And to what you're saying on the HPE side, what I really like about what they did with Silicon Rooted Trust is, you're right, beyond the perimeter. Once you've been infiltrated, and ransomware can sit for months at a time in an environment, literally months at a time, just bleeding data out slowly. That's unrecognizable to a lot of solutions because they keep the traffic level so low. But what they've done with Silicon Rooted Trust and ILO is they've made the detection of those kind of infiltrations near immediate.
Yeah.
So they shut it down almost immediately, and it really reduces the cost. And by the way, they're not the only ones out there, but they really have led the market and done a fantastic job with it. So,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
looking forward to seeing what they bring out at Discover. So
yeah, yeah.
let's jump into another security topic, and that is Infoblox,
Info.
combining DNS networking and security. Let me
Mhm.
give a little bit of a background. So first of all, Infoblox is the market leader. Again, not me pumping, but just by market share, and what's called DDI, and this is the combination, the integration of DNS, DHCP,
Mhm.
and IPAM. Essentially, it governs who gets to go across the network and what are the conditions for that. DNS is domain name system. Say that 3 times fast. And they have put together a service to do that. And not only is this service used on-prem, but also across all the major public clouds. So I put them in the hybrid multi-cloud category. The other thing we've learned, though, is DNS is not necessarily as secure as it needs to be,
Mhm.
right? If let's say you're running DNS or DHCP via Microsoft Active Directory, super vulnerable to DDoS attacks, where basically people come in and spoof the credentials. Okay,
That's
and
right.
it's becoming more and more um, a trend, right? I mean, it's very easy what the hackers go after. It's literally how much bang can I get for my buck?
Yeah.
Okay, what can I go after? And what new CEO Scott Harrell, who came in from Cisco, did is I wouldn't say he pivoted the company, but what he did is he very more clearly articulated what the company does, okay, which is aligning networking and security at the DNS level. In fact, there's a platform that they have, and it's called BloxOne. They also issued their cybersecurity report as well. And right before RSA, they outlined some really nasty botnets that started over in Russia. Right, every security company needs to do this. So, first off, I like what the company's doing. It is absolutely addressing a need that's out there. And oh, by the way, if your networking folks are already using this service, why wouldn't you pay the nominal amount to have it protected as well? So it just makes sense. And what the company brought out is a new service called lookalike domain monitoring, which again improves security by identifying lookalikes to impersonate brands, slightly altered to be a mimic of the original, which, I don't know if this is just because I'm old or wise or something. I always look at that domain name to make sure that it's absolutely categorically what it is. By the way, you would expect this to show up in your browser, right, with the lock and key or but it has to be identified first. And if it's not identified, it's not going to work. So congratulations to Scott and crew. I've got my eyes on this company, and I'm sure Will would have some brilliant things to say if he weren't in Europe on his honeymoon. But sorry, Will, you missed it. You're eating croissants and drinking coffee, which I don't know. Maybe that's more fun than being here live on the pod.
I don't think so. I think he's missing it. But what you talk about, you talk about what they're doing, and that is one of the biggest vulnerabilities of DNS, right? It's that kind of spoofing of the name with the slight alteration, and they put some numbers up on their site about how much more secure that DNS service becomes for companies when they deploy Infoblox. Super interesting. But they're another one where I looked at I was looking through their cybersecurity report, and it's just, again, it's staggering for those, for those who are listening, who you kind of just think, security is somebody else's problem, and there's a security team takes care of it. It's staggering. Look at this. $2 million. The average breach is $2 million in cost to an organization, and to a Pfizer, to an American Airlines, to a huge company, that's a cost that can be absorbed, even though it's not good. To smaller companies, that could kill you, right?
Exactly.
It could be the end of your organization. And this is the other thing I find interesting. Email and phishing attacks are always popular vectors because they're so easy to spoof. But cloud was another one that kind of threw me off. Attacks originated from cloud services. It's the second largest attack vector that hackers are taking advantage of. And I think we blindly put our trust in cloud services and assume that there is absolutely no vulnerability that comes from that particular service we're consuming, when there absolutely is. And not that the cloud isn't secure, but it's there's a false trust we put in a lot of these services that perhaps we shouldn't. And to what you're saying, I think, working with a company like Infoblox, it's not just about product and technology. It's about leaning on all the experience they have as an organization and all of the threats and all of the scenarios they've played through.
And I love Scott Harrell's lineage at Cisco. I mean, Cisco has, absolutely doing security and networking, the combination of the two. The two companies are approaching it differently. You've got hardcore DNS here, right? Is kind of at the root of a specific kind of defense. But good stuff here. Let's go to the next topic here. Gosh, is Intel getting out of server chips? No. Let me just say no. But Matt, what's going on here? Maybe get a little background on how Intel does their business and what this is.
So Intel does everything. They really do, right? And in the server game, they for years have, in addition to being the leading supplier of CPUs into the server business, they've actually had a healthy server platform business as well, selling into a variety of customers. And it's kind of white box business. They've sold into cloud. They've sold into all kinds of hyperscalers of all size, or hyperscalers, companies of all sizes, and they've been effective. But when Gelsinger came in, and this is the stuff I love to see with leadership. When Gelsinger came into Intel, one of the first things he did was kind of like, let's get refocused on what we do and do well.
Yeah.
Let's get our sights set, and let's push aside the stuff that's not as critical to our business. First and foremost, we're a CPU company. They reinstituted, or they kind of refined and rebooted their IDM process, their integrated design and manufacturing process, to be effective. And all of the extraneous, what would be considered extraneous to a CPU company, it's kind of like, let's figure that out later. And I think this is part of him focusing the team and focusing the company on driving what really matters to Intel, and that is designing and manufacturing the best silicon possible for the respective markets they're in. So server platforms are interesting, but you know what? They serve a whole bunch of OEMs and ODMs and other manufacturers to take care of that. Is it bringing a whole lot of value to their customers or to them? Not really. What really brings the value is the silicon. So I look at this as kind of another step in the transformation of Intel, into being a kind of leaner and meaner, if you will. I don't mean that in a bad way, but leaner, meaner version of themselves, where they're once again going to go after taking leadership in the silicon space.
Well, it certainly needs to, makes the OEMs happier, right? Because Intel was going direct with certain accounts on these. It's interesting, as Intel is pulling back, companies like NVIDIA are moving in, right? If you look at DGX, right? DGX is a conglomeration. Not only do they have their own GPU, but they have their own networking now with the addition of Mellanox. And then you layer on top of that their new ARM-based core. Now, right now, it's really not out there to compete with the likes of EPYC and Xeon, but I can't imagine that being out of the ordinary. And so I just, you have to do this when you focus. I mean, the company is in transition right now, and we might see this come back. Now, what Intel is going to continue to invest in is the platform, getting the platform ready, right?
Yep.
Because if the platform's not ready and they can't hand off an almost done design to the ODMs and the OEMs, then they've got real issues. And they do still work with these ODMs. I mean, if nothing else, they have to have a test vehicle to test the chip, to make sure the chip works. So interesting times at Intel. I had a chance. I talked to Pat Gelsinger on Wednesday about a few things, and what I'm really impressed about with Pat, he's very positive, but he's realistic. Okay, you throw a hard question at him, and he is going to answer it. He's going to eat crow when he needs to, but he's also going to defend his position when he feels like he needs to be defended. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Pat, I'm really actually encouraged by what I see going on at Intel. And I'm not an Intel fanboy. I'm ex-AMD.
Yeah, we can't be. Yeah.
No, I'm not a fanboy of any of them. But when I see hard decisions being made and kind of structural changes being made, and I hear, to what you're saying, I hear, more realistic and kind of real world view of kind of where they stand in that space. It tells me that, they understand kind of what they need to do to kind of transition themselves into, or transform themselves. It's similar to what you saw with Antonio at HPE, right? He took a company that was trying to do a million things at once. He said, this is what we're going to do and do well at. And, 3 or 4 years later, they are the as a service company. When you look at the server companies, they have moved the server industry in a whole new direction, right? It's all through their innovation, and they've been very focused in how they've executed. And I think Intel is doing the same thing. They've set a direction. They're going to execute against that, and they're going to allow you to measure their success by how well they execute against that vision on a quarterly and a yearly basis. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I think we're a firm that it definitely is not the hater. I mean, it's definitely a wait and see on Intel.
Sure.
And my 5 nodes in 4 years, that is going to be the company, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of other stuff that has to happen, but if they don't hit 5 nodes in 4 years, not only are they not going to have an IFS business of the size that I think they need and the market wants, but they once again will be nodes behind TSMC, and they're going to have the inability to put as much silicon per square millimeter and hence features
Yep.
on an SoC, and they'll be at a disadvantage to folks like AMD and in the ARM community.
Yep.
So hey, let's move to the next topic. Volumez. This is a new company that both Matt and I are learning about. Essentially, what they do is they do infrastructure as code for data and storage. Could they apply it to other stuff? Yes, they absolutely could. But regardless of whether you're on-prem, hybrid multi-cloud, Azure, GCP, essentially being able to say, hey, give my production database 1 terabyte with 1 million IOPS, 350 millisecond latency, and resilience across 2 AZs.
Yep.
And then the service goes boom, and it goes and it in an intelligent way figures it out. I put this under the too good to be true category, right? When I hear something that is that big, my first thought is, okay, why didn't somebody do this before? And then the second question is, okay, prove it. Tell me somebody other than you who actually believes this as well. Now, sometimes as industry analysts, we're coming in and we're some of the first people, but anyways, I'm super impressed, and also impressed that the company got $20 million to be able to invest in what they need to do, and that's a very healthy round A from my point of view. Now, new CEO here, Amir Feintuch, is not new to us. He did 3 years at Global Foundries, where he was a senior vice president and GM of compute, wired infrastructure, silicon photonics. 4 years at Intel, 3 years at Qualcomm. He was president of Qualcomm Atheros. But anyways, big company lineage doing the startups. And you might say, well, okay, big company guy doing he was a venture partner at Patango. He's a big time investor in seed companies. So he is no stranger. He's almost it's almost the perfect combination to scale this thing. But I'm interested in diving in, Matt, and quite frankly, not necessarily me diving in. I'm really interested for you to dive in.
Yeah, I really am. We had a couple of conversations with them, and what they tell us and how they describe their solution is super interesting, right? Creating a direct Linux path between media and apps, removing the control plane from the movement of data from source to the application, and that's what delivers the improved latency story that they can tell. And the declarative interface, where in really just a point and click, here's my resiliency, here are my requirements around performance. It really democratizes high performance storage and data management for the masses. I love the story. To what you said, they're new. What I read and seem to understand is that they're not as well known in the U.S. They're an Israeli-based company, and this is where this is going to help them kind of kickstart their efforts in the U.S. So the next few quarters will be fun to watch with them, but certainly a promising story.
Yeah, I'm just always amazed at the data and storage space. And again, this isn't a storage company, but it certainly is, bringing composability to storage and data. I'm amazed at all the high flyers that just literally routinely come out every 2 or 3 years.
I know.
It's super fun.
One other thing on these guys, Pat, I think is interesting, because you're right. I mean, sometimes it's hard to. Stories are interesting, right? And everybody can tell a compelling story. They got $20 million. That's a lot of money for Series A. That's a lot of money for Series A. And I think a lot of it comes too from, you talk about Amir, but that whole team, it is a team of, it's kind of like a who's who within the storage industry that he's assembled. So, they have really good bloodlines running through that company. I think that's probably part of what helped the investment as well.
For sure. Yeah, Amir is world-class, and some of the folks that he's put on the development team, by the way, the co-founder is a rock star as well. And my final thought here is, I look at the technology, I look at the methods. Doesn't it seem like they could do this for compute too?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, get all crazy here, but
yeah,
security, compute, storage, it kind of seems like they could extend that, right? Or am I just making stuff up here, Matt?
Composable infrastructure, right? That's what it is, and that applies, across networking, compute, and storage, without a doubt. I mean, there are elements of that in what they do. It's we were talking the other day about the lines between compute, storage, and networking. They're all blurring, and they're all kind of, they're so intertwined, especially compute and storage. This is what I think makes this so compelling, is that you don't have to be a storage specialist or a compute specialist or a data specialist, quite frankly, to stand this solution up as they've demoed it to us. So
awesome. Yeah. Let's go to our final topic here, and that is more of a marketing topic. But by the way, marketing communications is important, and that is that HPE is undergoing a giant rebranding of their portfolio. What's going on here, Matt?
All right, 29 brands. It's funny because HPE.
Oh, wait a second. You don't like ProLiant, Nimble, Simplivity, Aruba, GreenLake, PointNext, OneView, Synergy, Apollo, Integrity, Nonstop, Supernome? Come on.
Keep going.
By the way, that's only 12.
Right.
I ran out.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? But it's funny because it's a company that does they're very aggressive and kind of innovating, and some of that innovating happens through acquisition. And you've got these brands that stick around, and then you've got brands that are built within the company. And over time, you look back and you're like, holy heck, this is crazy. Yeah. And branding is bigger than just, naming and it looks good, right? It's as an IT person, when I want to go buy a solution from HPE or Dell or Lenovo, whoever, there are so many options available to me, or seeming options available to me, it's difficult to discern what I'm supposed to be ordering and what I'm supposed to be kind of choosing. And I think what's smart about what HP is doing is they seem to realize that. When we talked to them, they talked about thousands of derivative or ProLiant options that you can choose and how difficult it is. So they're trying to stream all that down, 29 to 6 brands. And I think they're eventually going to get smaller than that. But really just make it simple. Storage, compute, networking, keep the brands that are super strong, Aruba, 3PAR, for now, and maybe you phase them out over time, but kind of make it far more simpler for IT to understand the value and acquire the value.
I'm glad you gave background, and I think both of us have the ability to talk about it, because in previous lives we might have actually gone through some of these hairballs, right? Mm-hmm. So, and listen, product people want their own brands. Okay. Yep. I was a product person for a long time. And then I went in and did some corporate marketing. I'm like, why do we have all these brands? I need to put all my muscle around this corporate brand and maybe have a few hero brands under the auspice that great products do allow it to build. And if you go and be like a mid-range storage specialist who has been a customer for 25 years, they get it, right? They can even tell you down to the serial number, the model number.
That's right.
On what stuff has been done. And all the research that I'd ever done, whether it was at, systems companies or processor companies like you and I were both at, the closer you were to a certain area, the more you understood. But in the end, Green Lake, right? Like, what is Green Lake? If Green Lake truly is the future and it has very little awareness, familiarity, and preference and trial, then you're probably not doing your job. And then, you want 10x the marketing spend, which you're not going to get, right? You kind of dream this up. I am impressed that they went through it. As an industry analyst, makes my job so much easier.
Oh yeah.
Descriptors are easier than fanciful names to remember.
That's
and
right.
Especially when you have 29 of them, and our company covers from semiconductors to enterprise SaaS, there's only so much that we can do. So I like the descriptors. I like the doubling down on Green Lake. I do have empathy, being an ex-product person, that, I want a new brand for every product I bring out.
That's
okay. Because it's, it's my baby.
Yep.
But the bigger picture is, in most cases, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in the consumer world looking at what Apple does, and it doesn't work in the B2B world.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. And I can't imagine how long it took when you've been an executive at companies like AMD and Compaq. Can you imagine being the CMO at HPE, Jim, and trying to get everybody together and, look, I know your baby's important. I know you came up with this name and you have an emotional attachment to it, but trying to get that consensus across organization and perform a consolidation, 29 down to 6. God love them. That is impressive.
Listen, impressive. I don't know all of the backstory, but you never get consensus.
No, you're right.
Never get.
You're right.
It just doesn't happen. This has to be a tops down.
Yeah.
This has to be. I think Antonio Neri probably had a lot to do with it. But to me, right? HPE PerLiant Compute, HPE Cray Supercomputing, HPE Electra Storage, HPE Aruba Networking, HPE Esmeralda Software, and HPE Services. I get.
Yep.
Right. Even if I'd never heard of Electra before, the storage on the end is like, I get it. I know what it is.
Yeah.
Right. You can version control. You can, put something on the end, have model numbers to indicate, good, better, best inside of these lines. But no, I think a good move HPE. And if nothing else, I can pretty much, I don't want to guarantee because I don't have the spend, but you will get more focus on HPE and you will get more focus on Green Lake.
That's right. Yeah. Good stuff. Very good stuff.
Yeah. So we are coming to an end here, Matt. I always surprise the team with, hey, what travel? Where are you going the next couple of weeks? So I'll try as you look at your calendar, but I have the VMware Multi-Cloud Industry Analyst Summit next week for a whopping 24 hours. And then I'm off to IBM Think and Intel Vision.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm off to Europe for a IBM Partner Quantum Summit and an unnamed company in Cambridge for an analyst for an analyst event. And then I'm off to Dell Technologies World.
Yep.
And then I get to come home for a week.
For a week or less, thereabouts. Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
I'm going to be, Oracle's got their database summit going on next week. I'll be out.
Say hi to Steve Z out there for me, would you?
I will, my buddy. He actually promised me a ride in his Tesla Plaid. So I don't know if he promises
your helmet
to all the analysts, but I'm holding him to it. That's going to be interesting. They're doing a lot of neat stuff, kind of in the database space. But I go from there. I've got a Nutanix Analyst Summit after that. Intel Vision I'll be there with you, and Dell Tech World, Red Hat Summit, Cisco Live. It just goes on and on. And that's the fun part of being an analyst, right? It's you're continually learning and continually traveling, so you're never bored.
Hey, I got the highest level status on American now.
And, yeah, that's right. You got concierge key, right?
How about that? Got concierge key. Will lost his, so
he's not happy.
He's not happy. He went to Twitter on that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say he threw me under the bus, but he pretty much insinuated that I took his spot. But listen, I paid full tilt for my trip, business class to Mobile World Congress. And let me tell you what, it is not cheap. It's twice as expensive as it was even before the pandemic.
Yeah. And that there alone will get you concierge key, right? Yeah.
I would hope. I've done it before, but I didn't get it. But I don't know. We'll see. Now I just get to fly more. But I am picking American more now that I have that. So all the United people watching our podcast. Listen.
Well, to that though, you know, I'm an American guy, and I don't have concierge key, but I have executive platinum, and I'll tell you, when you get to a status, they treat you very well. And even when things go wrong, they try their hardest. And I will say, American Twitter, I had a flight get canceled a couple weeks ago. I got on Twitter, reached out, they rebooked me automatically within like 20 minutes. Amazing. I don't want to give an endorsement, but yeah, it was great customer service.
You're there, folks. We are tech industry analysts. We get paid for our opinions and our analysis, but we're also professional travelers and event tenders. So if you ever need any input on technology events, hotels in Vegas or on the West Coast, or maybe a little bit in New York, a little bit of Miami, a little bit of Orlando too.
Yeah,
so
Orlando too. Yeah,
we're the place to ask. So everybody, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate that. If you want to give kudos, you can find me at Twitter. If you want to complain, you can find Matt and give him feedback. You know, we'd love to hear your feedback. Let us know how we can make the show better. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are on the planet. We appreciate you.